Hello, everybody. Pep from Copy Testing here, continuing with Winter Games. A couple of years ago, I was talking to a mentor of mine about challenges I was having, and he said, you should reach out to TK because he would know how to help you. I never did, but here we are now. So TK today runs advisory services for high-growth SaaS CEOs. So I'm going to give you a call later. And he built his own startup, ThoughtUp, from ground up, which was acquired by Marketo, which was acquired by Adobe. And so he knows a lot about building go-to-market machines. And so he's going to talk about it. TK, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, we'd be happy to help you grow your SaaS business. So I'll jump right into it because I have 15 minutes. Today, we're going to be talking about audience insights, how to take audience insights and turn them into revenues with an unstoppable go-to-market machine. Just a quick background on me in case this is the first time we're meeting. I've been in the SaaS business for about 15 years now with twists and turns on the road. My first startup I started in college. It was HipCal. I was an online calendaring company. We sold it to Plaxo. Then worked at Bridgewater, one of the best hedge funds. Started a company called ThoughtUp. It was backed by Andreessen Horowitz. Sold it to Marketo after growing it. And then helped sell Marketo to Adobe. I was SVP of strategy there. And now I run a YouTube channel for SaaS founders. You can check it out at tkkader.com/YouTube. And I also run a coaching program for SaaS founders to help them build go-to-market machines. So everything I share with you today comes from 15 years of experience as a founder, a venture-backed CEO, and a senior executive across multiple companies. So here's the stat I want you to highlight. Here's the thing that I realized as I went through my startup journey. Only 4% of startups graduate from the seed stage. And on top of that, by the time you raise a Series A, only 4% of them will actually raise a Series A. 70% of those will actually have revenues. They'll be generating consistent revenues. That's the game. That's where the bar is. And that's a very, very high bar. Meaning there's more seed funded startups than ever before, but only 4% of them will actually raise an A. And I asked the question like, well, why? Why is it only 4%? What is that 4% doing? What are the rest not doing? And so CB Insights did a startup postmortem, and they looked at 101 startup postmortems, and they created the top 20 reasons startups fail. I took the top 9 of those, and I started looking at them. Number one reason was no market need, then ran out of cash, and it goes on and on. But I noticed something. Majority of the reasons that startups fail had to do with their go-to-market. It's not their product. There's only one. It says user unfriendly product, which is synonymous with shitty product. But majority of them were really about market. That was the main problem. And so what does that mean? It means that you can have a cool name, logo, slick website, blog, social profiles, ads. You can have an MVP. You can run SEO. You can do a press release. You can raise $3 million seed. You can do all of these things and still end up with not enough traction, no clear product market fit, and no insights. So what I learned in my journey as a SaaS founder is you have 3 pillars for every successful startup, especially a SaaS business. You need a great product. If you're a founder, that's why you got into this game. You want to have a great product, but you also need to be in a ripe market with an urgent and important problem. And you also need to have a scalable go-to-market machine. If you don't have all 3 of these, you will not succeed. The 4% that succeeds knows that they need to optimize for all 3 of these. So I'm going to dig into all 3 of these and really what that means for you. Now, the first one is markets. You got to pick a market. Here's the thing. You can have a mediocre product, a mediocre team, and an amazing market, and you will still win. You can have the best product in the business, the best, most amazing, beautifully designed product, perfectly scalable. But if it's in a crappy market, it will not matter. You can have the best team building the best product. If they're in a crappy market, it won't matter. Markets are what matters the most when it comes to successful startups. This is why audience research, actually looking deep into audience, truly doing research, not just asking if they want it, is the real way to make sure you're picking the right markets. If you don't do that, you're not going to be successful. Am I out of time already? No, I'm 5 minutes in. Cool. So there's only 3. So how do you make sure you pick the right market beyond audience research? Once you've done your audience research and you're saying, we're going to go after this, we're going to build a product, we're going to do a startup around this, you got to realize there's only 3 reasons businesses buy ever. You either people buy for 3 reasons, businesses buy for 2. Either getting them paid, they make more money, you're getting them made, you make them popular, or they're getting them laid. And when it comes to B2B SaaS, which is what I focus on, really the only reason they're going to buy is because they're either going to save money, they're going to grow faster, or they're going to reduce risk. If you're not one of these, you can do thousands of hours of research and they can tell you they want it. They're probably lying to you. If they're not getting paid through your software, they're not going to buy your software. And so here's the thing that I always coach people on when you're trying to pick the market and validate all the audience research you've done to feed it into go-to-market machine. Let's make sure that you have an urgent and important problem. Let's make sure if you're raising venture capital that you have an appropriate TAM. Now, if you're raising venture capital, you need a large TAM. If you're bootstrapping, it doesn't matter as long as there's enough TAM for you to live a good life. You have to be close to revenue. The closer you are to make revenue, helping them save money, helping them make money, help them actually be an insurance policy to ensure they hit their revenue goals, the better off you're going to be. And most importantly, you need to make sure that you have a macro trend that you're going after. If there's certain patterns you're seeing in your audience research, your job is going to be to figure out what is the macro trend that's driving this opinion for this audience. What is happening in a macro way? What is one big trend that's happening, tailwinds that are actually driving this? And when you have these insights, the first step to actually mobilizing this into the right go-to-market strategy, because that's what matters the most, more than product, more than product, and just as much as market, is making sure you define an ideal customer profile. Now, a lot of people actually say they have an ICP, but they don't really have an ICP. They don't have it written down. They're not specific enough in it. They're not talking about, well, what happens inside of a company that gets them to buy our product. They don't actually have actual names and data. Like what I tell people to do is create a list of 100 people that are your dream customers and figure out what is it that about them that makes them your dream customer, their ideal customer. And they don't tie it to their comp plan. So build an ICP is the first thing as you're figuring out your market. The first is validate all your audience insights on the key market definitions that I just covered. And the second is make sure that you're building it into an ideal customer profile. And if you're still wondering, is this the right market to go after? The best markets has money to spend, they have an urgent and important problem, and they're early adopters because they're willing to try startups. You match these three, that's where the money is. The riches are in the niches, as internet marketers call it. SaaS Founders is trying to adopt that, and you got to get that. So those are the things I would look at for market. Now, am I talking 2x fast because I only have 15 minutes? Yes. Is there more detail to this? Yes. Can you look at it in my YouTube channel? Absolutely. tkkader.com/YouTube. The second thing you want to look at is your product. You want to have a great product. Once you choose the market, your product has to be great. How do you make sure you have a great product that supports the go-to-market strategy? Now, you can build an amazing product, but that doesn't mean it's a great product for distribution. There are certain things you need to incorporate in your product strategy to make sure that you're more likely to succeed. Here's the thing. People don't care about software. They don't want to use software. They don't wake up in the morning and say, I really want to buy some SaaS software. They don't do any of those things. What they do is they want to understand, do you have the right product strategy? They have a problem. They want to get to a result. And they want to figure out how many clicks does it take to get to that aha moment. That's what this is all about. So you want to make sure that you're architecting your product the right way so that they're getting to some sort of an aha moment quickly. If you don't have that, your go-to-market won't work. People won't stick around. You may have an amazing product that can do all kinds of things, but they'll never stick around to actually realize that. You guys getting this? Does this make sense? So there's three types of SaaS products. If you're building a SaaS business, you're either a system of record, you're a system of engagement, or a system of decision. Now, these are the only three types: system of record, system of engagement, and there's a pecking order. If you can be a system of record, that's the best. If you can't be a system of record, be a system of engagement. If you can't be either of those two, think real hard, because system of decisions don't make that much money, don't get as much traction, but that's the last resort that you have. And most importantly, for your product, there needs to be a single player mode. If I have to go invite 5 more people to get value out of your product, then the aha moment is too far away. I will not probably get there. And so you want to make sure I get value out of the product, get to an aha moment on my own, and then you earn the right for me to invite other people into the product. And that supports your go-to-market strategy because more people will take action, get to some sort of activation, and then move from there. So you want to make sure when you're building out your product strategy, in order to optimize your chances for success, you want to make sure you have the quickest path to aha, essentially. The last thing I want to mention is I'm an engineer. I started as an engineer, then I learned sales and marketing. And the biggest thing I fell into when I was building my startups, the ones that didn't go anywhere, like the highlight reel looks really good because I'm only mentioning the ones that worked, and they worked really well. The ones that didn't work well, I fell into the one more feature trap. And as founders, we all do this. We've all been guilty of this. There's always this one more feature. And customers, especially when you're interviewing them, you're like doing your audience research. They're like, if you had this one feature, it'd be cool if you had this. And you're like, if we did this, would you buy? And they're like, yeah, totally. And then you go back and they don't buy. The thing is, there's always going to be that one more feature, and you need to get out of the one more feature trap. You need to figure out what is the core loop that gets people to buy. And until they're swiping the credit card, you'll never really know if they're telling you the truth. And that's why go-to-market is more important than ever. So market, product, we talked about that. Now let's talk about go-to-market in the last 4 minutes that I have. Now, what you want to do is have a go-to-market strategy, but there's some real traps when it comes to go-to-market, which means that you can take your audience insights, you can turn it into a product, you can have your product strategy, you can validate your market is right, you can go into go-to-market. There's a bunch of traps that will kill you, and therefore you won't be part of that 4% that succeeds. What are some of the traps? Number one, channels are the most attractive, but they may not give you the light of day yet. Channels are a way of selling where you go through other companies that already sell to your customers. I won't talk about that here. SEO is the cheapest. Everyone wants organic traffic, but it takes 12 months to actually pay off. So you're not going to get immediate results. There's no feedback loop. You can spin up ads. You can do a sales engagement tool and send 1,000 emails, and you can FedEx your dream customers, but these are giant machine guns on the internet that'll gladly take your money. But if you don't have the right go-to-market strategy, you'll be firing blanks. These are the traps. How do you overcome the traps? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to understand the difference between a go-to-market strategy and go-to-market execution. Most people jump to execution instead of strategy from their audience insights. So what is in a strategy? A strategy is your positioning and messaging. How do you actually, what's your strategic message? What's your positioning? What segment of the market are you going in? What's your value prop? You actually have to define your value prop. What's your strategic narrative on why someone should take action now? Those things often get skipped over, and people just start running ads, start testing. They're like, we're going to A/B test it, but they haven't done any of the strategy work. They haven't taken their audience insights and articulated it in their strategy. And then once you establish the strategy, then you can get into your market segmentation, your ICP, and your Dream 100, which we talked about. What that means is that what you should do is make sure you spend time on strategy and then run execution. Now, I run a coaching program to help SaaS founders build go-to-market machines. And what we do is we actually teach you how to build a movement around your company, right? As a startup, there's no brand, that you don't have enough money to spend on ads. How do you actually do it effectively, right? SEO takes too long. Blasting emails won't work unless you're very strategic about it. So we teach you how to actually write a manifesto. That's your strategic narrative. How to actually position your product. Based on that, then we teach you how to hone in on your messaging and actually the most ripe segment of the market. And then we teach you how to run consistent marketing activities. Am I selling you on this? Kinda, but not really. What I'm really telling you, the thing that you really need to understand is two things. Number one, you'll do a ton of audience research. People will tell you a bunch of things. You will never know if they're telling the truth or not until they pay you money. How do you figure out and get them to pay you money? You build a go-to-market machine. When you're building a go-to-market machine, that's the second thing, it's easy to jump into execution. Don't jump into execution, get the strategy right first. Your positioning, your messaging, your strategic narrative, you get those things right, then you can execute and be effective. And then you can ask them for money. And when they pay you money, then you'll know whether all your audience research was true or false. You will not really know until you ask them for money. That's what you need to know. I'm almost running out of time, so let's start to wrap up over here. I have a framework around this. How do you build a go-to-market machine based on your audience insight? I call it an unstoppable sales funnel. If you give a YouTube search for unstoppable sales funnel TK, you will land on my videos around this. When you build an unstoppable sales funnel for your startup, you are fleshing out your ICP, you're writing a manifesto, that's your strategic narrative, and you're running a Broadway show. When you do this, everything becomes clearer. It makes sure that you create the strategy and then you do the execution. I have a ton of free content on this on the YouTube channel that you can check out. I think I have 1 minute left, so I'm going to give you one last thing. How many of you want one last thing that you want? Just put yes on one last thing and I'll give it. Otherwise we'll close out here. I don't have to do it. I already know it. So I can talk. I can give you the one thing to put extra attention into. Okay, we got a bunch of yeses. Sweet. Pricing strategy. Nothing beats pricing strategy. All right. Now here's the thing. The most successful SaaS businesses actually have a positive net retention rate. The best IPOs have a positive net retention rate. How do you do that? Part of it is your product strategy, but really it's your pricing strategy. Until you ask people for money, you will not know if your research is true. You will not know if they were telling you the truth. When they pay you money, you'll know they're telling the truth. But how much you asked for them to pay is your pricing strategy. And you always want to make sure that you actually tweak your pricing strategy in the right way so that you actually have potential to grow, meaning the best SaaS businesses set up their pricing in a way where they're paying this much this month, and over time they pay more and more based on usage, based on more features, based on continued growth. And you want to make sure you get your pricing strategy right. If you want to dig into that, I have 2 videos on YouTube on how to set up your pricing strategy. Just do pricing strategy, SaaS, Unstoppable TK, or just go to tkkader.com/YouTube and you'll get all of that. Get your pricing strategy right. Figure out how to ask for money. That's how you'll know that people are telling the truth. When you know people are telling the truth, incorporate that in your go-to-market machine, and then you can scale very easily. And again, I go back to this startup postmortems. This is why companies die. It is almost always either a shitty market or their go-to-market was terrible. Those are the 2 reasons. It's not the product. It's not because everyone said that they would do it. And then like, this is what kills companies. And that's what you need to do. So remember, market, product, go-to-market. That's what matters the most. If you want to codify all of this, as I said, you can go to my YouTube channel. Just go to tkkader.com/YouTube, and I will cover a whole bunch of stuff. I have my Unstoppable Sales Funnel. We have pricing strategy, how to build an ICP. All of this stuff is over there. If you want the cheat codes and you want to go faster, then join my coaching program. You can learn more about that at tkkader.com/GTM. I also have one free resource for you. I have a 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. If you're a SaaS founder, you want to dig more into this stuff, you want to get the kind of the framework to follow, go to getunstoppable.com/strategy, and I'll dig more into that. So in summary, we can skip these. In summary, what matters the most is go-to-market. That's all. You can take all the audience research, all the audience insights until you mobilize in a go-to-market strategy, ask people for money and see if they're willing to pay. You will not know whether you're onto the right track. You just won't. And so the quicker you go to that, the better off you're going to be. I think I'm at time right now. At least I thought I was at time. I'm really bad at math. So there we go. Was that
very much.
How did we do?
Perfect.
Dude, 15
All
minutes.
right, we got
a
couple of minutes to ask you questions as well.
Yeah.
So question 1. So you say the strategy is basically a hypothesis. It can only validate it once people pay you money. So should you then form multiple of those strategies, as in like it's an ABC test or whatever, and then just test one strategy after another, or what?
I think that you have to have conviction on your strategy and test one at a time. So when you get into a landing page or an ad, you should have multiple tests. When you are going up or higher up, when you're thinking about your ideal customer profile, when you are thinking about your core strategic narrative, you should test one at a time, because those are 2 big things. Like, you shouldn't be testing whether you sell to a tax accountant or a lawyer and see which one performs better, because that's not an ICP. That's like I'll take money from anyone that's willing to give me money. And so I think testing, people use that as an excuse and a crutch for conviction, for lack of conviction. And so you need to have conviction. You need to choose one. You need to test that one thing. If that doesn't work, then try something new.
Awesome. And we're out of time. So thank you, TK. We know your YouTube channel. We'll find you there.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.